His name was Bob, by Llewellyn. Chapter 36, The Door. Bob's point of view.
Odd they haven't gotten the law involved, don't you think?
Canary said as he took a drag from one of his nasty cigarettes. Bob again read over the note Indy had handed him that some Utagen employee had left on the door. Odd was a word for it. The letter had an almost desperate tone, going so far as to offer paying Tiny for his return.
And why do you think that is?
Canary continued, blowing smoke between his teeth as he talked. Bob gave him a disgusted look, before remembering that these two were inexplicably trying to help him.
Why do you care?
Bob asked, as he waved the smoke away from himself, rereading the letter once again.
Again, with us owing you a favor. Seems this is the quickest way to get us out of your debt.
Canary shrugged. Whatever. Indy was leaning against a tree root, staring off, and not really paying he or Canary any mind.
Listen, pal,
Canary continued.
If we're going to get you out of this whole mess so we can go back to being frenemies, we need to clear some things up. I gather from this note your human doesn't actually own you. How'd you come into their possession, then?
Bob bit back the urge to snap at Canary, instead rubbing a hand over his face and sighing. They really were trying to help, and Bob hated to admit it, but he was in desperate need of help and was willing to cling to any glimmer of hope.
Escaped a truck. Stuff happened. Ended up with Tiny.
He didn't really want to elaborate more than that.
Interesting,
Indy signed, apparently deciding to join in the conversation.
You survived on your own? That's not supposed to happen.
Yeah, well, obviously it did. You calling me a liar?
Bob snapped, losing his thin thread of patience. To hell with these guys, after all. They couldn't help him.
Whoa, easy, buddy. No one's calling you a liar.
Canary placed a hand on Bob's shoulder, who immediately jerked away.
That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying bitties aren't supposed to survive without humans,
Indy said.
The fact that you did, and they found out about it, how did they find out?
Bob folded his arms, grumbling.
I don't want to talk about it, okay? Let's just say at some point I ended up at one of those collection places after meeting Tiny. Not their fault. I got out again. End of story.
So you escaped a truck, met your human, ended up getting scanned later, and now Utagen is after you?
Indy tapped his chin thoughtfully, not really looking at Bob to answer the question.
Yeah, that about sums it up, he answered anyway.
You're one lucky bastard, huh?
Canary snorted, stepping away as Bob shot a look, but managed not to physically lash out. Barely.
Here's what I think,
Indy continued.
As I said, bitties aren't supposed to survive without humans. Our physical bodies are pretty easily destroyed as it is. As far as our souls go, we can't survive alone. Most humans have a hard enough time surviving without other humans. Some even die of loneliness. With us, since we are mostly soul, mental anguish takes a much more physical toll. Fear, hopelessness, stuff like that. It's why my brother and I can't leave Ace for more than a few hours. It's by design. It's why we were able to be marketed. No way the USDA would have authorized genetically created artificial life forms that could potentially get out and survive in the wild, possibly wreaking havoc on the environment and humanity.
Indy paused, looking between Canary and Bob, as if waiting for them to get at whatever point he was trying to make. Bob didn't get it. Canary smiled and shrugged at his brother. Indy sighed, continuing.
Bob got out and survived. He was obviously scanned at one of the collection centers. There now exists proof that at least one bitty escaped and survived on their own. Whoever is after him, they probably don't want that fact getting out.
Oh, really?
Bob said, a grin creeping over his face.
So, it would be a real shame if someone, say, ran a popular blog and leaked that info, huh?
Indy grimaced. Bad idea. I'm sure you know better than anyone what it's like to be part of a recall. If the USDA finds out that bitties can survive on their own, there could potentially be a recall of all lines. All of us.
Oh, shit. This was worse than he thought. So much worse.
So, what you're saying,
Canary said, no longer grinning and now staring at Bob blankly.
if Bob doesn't turn himself in, we're all gonna have a bad time.
Fuck. Bob took a step back from Canary, momentarily stunned by the strong negative aura coming off of him. But it only lasted a few seconds, breaking as Canary shook his head, grin back in place as he dug into his pockets to replace the cigarette he had dropped.
Well, guess this makes things a bit more complicated. Yeah, I'm sure we can come up with something.
He looked at his brother hopefully, but Indy was back to staring off and tapping his chin again. Canary sighed, lighting his cigarette. Bob quickly reached down, retrieving the note he had dropped, and rolled it up to replace under his arm. If he were in his right state of mind, he may have used that opportunity to port the hell away from them. Canary had definitely been holding back in their fights. But Bob couldn't really blame him. What Indy was saying, it made sense. If what Indy was saying was true, more than just Bob's life was at stake. More than just Tiny's happiness. So much for he and his blog making a difference in the lives of biddies everywhere. So much for his plan to just disappear. If he didn't turn himself in, he'd most definitely be making a difference in the lives of biddies everywhere. Fuck. Bob started giggling and then laughing uncontrollably, holding his sides as Canary gaped at him. This just made him laugh harder. What the hell was he going to do? Why did this kind of shit keep happening to him? Fuck, one lucky bastard, eh? Yeah, fucking right. His manic laughter was abruptly cut short as the front door swung open, making all three biddies jump. Staring down at them was one very angry Tiny, and in her and in her hand, Bob's letter. Whoops. Your point of view. Whoops! Whoops! What the hell? You screeched down at Bob, who flinched and didn't make eye contact. Somehow, you'd kept your calm until all three, yes, three, biddies made their way sheepishly into your apartment. Apparently, Canary and Indy were here too, though you had no idea how. Canary and Indy stood awkwardly to the side, while you barely managed to somewhat contain the wrath you wanted to unleash on the single fidgeting biddy in front of you. How dare he? Write you something like that, and then make you relive all over again the nightmare of almost losing him. God, what if Canary and Indy hadn't been there? Were they the ones who had stopped him from leaving? How the hell had they gotten to your apartment anyway? Indy seemed to be signing something at you.
My brother asked if we should maybe, give you all some space. We could wait outside,
Canary translated. Nuh-uh, you two stay right there. I'm telling Ace where you are. You were sure he was probably worried sick. Besides, you could use the distraction to collect your cool. Canary made an irritated noise and went to dig in his pockets. No smoking in the apartment, you added as you finished your text and hit send. More irritated noises from Canary and more signing from Indy.
No, I'll tell him,
Bob said quietly. Tell me what? You snapped, turning your attention back to Bob. So he told you. All of it. Everything the three biddies had been discussing. He handed you the latest note that was left on the door, too. You slunk to the floor against the wall, thinking, staring at the note that had been left on the door. Time passed. You didn't say anything. You probably would have started crying. Instead, you frowned at the letter, pretending to study it. Indy signed and Canary talked to his brother quietly over by the couch. What were you going to do now? For a brief instant, you did think of sticking with your plan of getting Bob out of town. The heck with all the other biddies in the world. The potential recall wasn't your problem. But you couldn't do that. You couldn't live with yourself if you did. You knew Bob wouldn't do that either.
Do we really have a choice?
Bob said quietly from beside you. Shut up, I'm thinking, you said, without looking at him. There was no way you'd turn him in, not even if it meant saving an entire species of sentient beings. Selfish, yes, but you couldn't. You couldn't do this. There had to be another way.
Heh, always the stubborn ass,
Bob chuckled. He cleared his throat awkwardly.
You know, I meant what I said, what I wrote.
Don't, you cut him off, swallowing the lump forming in your throat. Luckily, you were saved by a knock at the door. That had to be Ace. So desperate were you for a distraction that you didn't even check to see who it was before opening it. It definitely wasn't Ace.
Dun 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 dun.
Chapter 37, Microchip. I can't just let you leave us on that note, Gary said as he brushed past you into your apartment, takeout bags weighing down both arms. If you must leave, which I still don't understand why you must, but if you must, Miguel and I are throwing you a proper goodbye party. Dr. Rivera trudged in behind Gary, carrying 2 bags of his own. He nodded at you once, saying nothing, and actually looked kind of sad. Oh, I see you already have company, Gary exclaimed, noticing Indy and Canary. He squinted at them. If I'm not mistaken, you all came in with Ace, was it? Nice fellow. Great baker. Is he here too? No? He's on his way, you said, shooting a look in the aforementioned Bitty's direction. Well, I see. Well, good thing I brought extra food. The more the merrier. Is all this your doing? Dr. Rivera snapped as soon as he spotted Bob, wasting no time. Miguel! Gary yelped, before you could say anything in Bob's defense. Don't ruin this! We talked about this!
Yeah, it is,
Bob answered quietly, surprising everyone.
I'm the reason Tiny quit and was planning on skipping town.
Dr. Rivera clearly wasn't expecting this, as he just stood there, opening and closing his mouth, at a loss for how to follow up. Bob, it wasn't... You don't have to, you whispered, but he shook his head and appeared up on your shoulder.
No, you ought to tell 'em. I know they're important to you. I won't let you lose 'em because of me. If you don't wanna, I will.
And so you told them. All of it. Everything, starting from when Eudigen first contacted you, and ending with you finding the 3 bitties and the note outside your door. You may have left out some key things Bob wrote in his letter, as that was kind of personal. Ace showed up halfway through the story, and you had to start all over again, after he stopped his tirade about how he couldn't believe Canary and Indy had done this again. Afterward, everyone sat in silence for a bit, letting the story sink in. The latest letter left on the door was passed around so everyone could read it. Next door, the sounds of the neighbors fighting could be heard through your thin apartment walls. The traffic hummed along the freeway out back. Normal sounds, as if nothing out of the ordinary was going on. As if Bob wasn't in danger of losing his life. And you even offered to pay them. Had I known, if it was just a matter of money, we would have helped you. Sweetie, you only had to ask, Gary said quietly, and put a hand on Dr. Rivera, who nodded. They don't want money, just Bob, you said. Ace cleared his throat. So, I mean, don't get me wrong. I understand. But you were just gonna leave? Without saying goodbye? He looked kind of hurt. You looked down, not answering. Everyone fell into silence again. You felt guilty about pushing them all away, but you were so used to dealing with problems on your own, and there was really no way out of this that you could see besides taking Bob and disappearing. Your friends, you knew they were trying, but they couldn't help you. Despite that, it was nice being able to share with them what was going on. Somehow, in all of this, you had forgotten that you were surrounded by good friends. Bob patted your shoulder and you looked over, finally making eye contact. He offered you a weak smile. You were still a little ticked at him for trying to leave, even if he hadn't succeeded. Did he not understand how losing him would literally destroy you? Had you not told him how important he was to you? How you were more than willing to give up everything just to save him? You guess you hadn't really voiced that in your haste to keep him safe. You hadn't really told anyone anything, it seemed. Hadn't you once told him he should communicate his feelings more? Realize he had good people in his life? Ace cleared his throat again, breaking the silence.
So, all bitties have microchips in their heads, right? That identify them in the corporation's system? Heh, at least we got something in our heads, unlike certain humans who can't retain what was just discussed,
Canary said, as he took a bite of the forgotten food he had at some point taken from one of the bags. Ace ignored him.
So, what if the company had the microchip back? The microchips are unique. They can't be fabricated, but nice of you to chip in, Canary added sarcastically.
I figured that. What I'm saying, maybe we bring in the original?
You shot Ace an irate look and he held up his hands.
No, I'm not saying we give them Bob, but what about just giving them his microchip?
Ace turned his attention to Dr. Rivera.
Could you, use your doctor skills and take it out or something?
All eyes turned to Dr. Rivera, who was now fiddling with his glasses.
Interesting,
he said, as he removed, replaced, then removed, and cleaned his glasses.
I've never done a surgery like that. It may be possible, in theory.
But would you do it?
Ace asked again. Shouldn't we be asking Bob if he's even willing to go through something like that? Gary asked, looking over at Bob.
It would be very risky, and possibly painful. We don't have any anesthetics that work on bitties.
Dr. Rivera continued before Bob could answer.
Perhaps if I use something small, like the dental drill.
Absolutely not, you said, horrified. He'd bleed out, like Cujo. We're not doing this. We'll think of something else. Dr. Rivera continued cleaning his glasses, thinking. Ace rubbed the back of his head. Canary continued to eat his food.
There is no something else. I say we do it,
Bob said, breaking the silence again. Bob, no! I won't let you! You cried.
Let me? Really? So now I have no say-so in what happens to me?
Not in this you don't! No way! No way would you let him do this. You'd think of another way.
Really? Aren't you the one who's always saying we're equals? And now I have a way to not only save my own life, but the life of the one I... And you're saying I can't make that decision?
Bob was raising his voice. You and he glared at each other. No way, he wasn't doing this. This was too dangerous. There had to be something else.
This is getting awkward,
Canary said. Indy snored, apparently having fallen asleep. Canary hoisted him over his shoulder and teleported both of them over to Ace's shoulder.
Time to go, human.
We should probably give you all some space to discuss your plans, Gary agreed, grabbing Dr. Rivera by the elbow and startling him out of his contemplations.
I'll be checking back with you in the morning. In the meantime, don't make any hasty plans without telling us, hun. I mean it. Yeah, at least say goodbye if you're going,
Ace added. Indy's point of view. Indy woke up with a face full of his brother's orange hoodie as he was jostled awake. He must have fallen asleep again. And now he was in a car on his way back to Ace's place. Sometimes it was tough staying awake when he knew what would happen next. Indy knew what was to come as soon as Ace had started talking about microchips. He already knew it would eventually come up, but it wasn't his place to mention that. He'd done the part he was meant to do to steer events in a better direction. He also knew how everything would most likely turn out. It wasn't his place to mention that either. And now came the part where Canary and Ace argued. Canary had been getting agitated since Ace's grand entrance to Bob's human's apartment, complete with the usual beratement, though Indy doubted his brother was ticked over that. Ace always berated them when they ran off. Probably had to do with the reminder that Eutygen was still looming over them and all biddies, a constant threat to their life. And also maybe some jealousy over Bob and his human's closeness. Heh, though he'd never tell his brother he noticed that. Indy kept a lot of stuff to himself.
It really isn't funny, dude.
Ace glared at Canary as he started laughing from the seat beside him.
Really didn't want to spend money on an Uber. No offense, my man.
He added to the driver up front, who just kind of grunted and turned up his music a little. Seemed the driver wasn't much for this conversation. Canary readjusted Indy on his shoulder as he sat cross-legged facing Ace.
I don't know why you couldn't take the bike. Maybe due to being too tired?
Do you know how far... Ace's face scrunched as he realized the pun.
Yeah, okay, har har, real funny. You guys seriously need to stop doing things like this. Sorry we're not the well-behaved pets you paid for. Sorry we're not all close and bunny like Bob and his human. Guess you wish you kept your car now, huh?
Ace paused, clearly shocked.
You guys knew about that? We're not stupid, contrary to popular belief. I never thought you were.
Ace ran a hand along his beard, tugging on it.
Is that why you guys hate me? Because I think you all are stupid? Heh. Isn't it the other way around, human? Do not give me that look. You know you wish you had kept that car. You wish you had just let the store return us like they originally wanted to, or that we had taken you up on your original offer to just run off somewhere and die. Then we wouldn't be your problem right now.
Well, that escalated quickly. Indy rolled off his brother's shoulder, landing a little way beside him. Canary hardly noticed.
Holy shit! What? That's not true! I don't hate you all, and I don't think you're stupid, and I don't want you dead, and I don't regret buying your freedom. Then why didn't you tell us about the car, and why are you always treating us like you're inferiors? I'm sorry. I just, didn't want you to think I resented the fact that I paid for your freedom. I get worried sometimes. I know you all are capable, but, I care about you dudes, and I don't want you to get hurt. I don't want you all to feel like you're all alone. I want you to know that I'll be there looking out for you all when you run off. Sometimes I get angry, because I guess I'm afraid. I don't really know what I'm doing.
Ace continued to tug on his beard, looking down at the floor. Canary sat staring at Ace, at a loss for words for once. Ace continued,
I want you to be able to rely on me. Maybe I was afraid you'd realize I don't know what I'm doing. Because then maybe you'd think you can't rely on me.
What should the driver voice be?
So, we reached your stop a few minutes ago. Didn't want to interrupt whatever this is,
the driver said, startling Canary and Ace. Indy teleported up to Ace's shoulder, and Canary reluctantly followed as Ace paid the driver. Silence followed the three as they approached Ace's door, and the two biddies teleported over to the hole in the TV stand where they lived. Their home within a home, full of their clothes, their beds, and the various things they had stolen over time. Ace didn't know about the latter. He never opened the cabinet or went through their stuff.
Human,
Canary called from the cabinet, as Ace was heading off to his own room. Ace paused, looking over his shoulder.
Human, I don't hate you. You are mostly reliable.
Ace gave a small smile and nodded, turning again and heading to his room. Indy smirked at his brother, earning him a frown and a weak punch. It would take a while yet before they would all be on equal footing. But things have a way of working out sometimes. Eventually. Maybe.